Hey, it's Brenda with Horse Sense Healing here with another story of shifting your life to living your stories with grace. I'm out with the horses again today. It's a little chilly. And I was thinking about what to share with you today, and I have a lot of different ideas. And yesterday I talked about the stories that we have when we are not our stories, and that we can change those stories. And I was looking through things that I've been doing and thinking about, and I ran across a blog that I wrote last summer, and I thought, that's it. It's called Shifting Stories. And really it's about how we limit ourselves or empower ourselves by the language we use or the thoughts that we think. Hi, Frank. So the beginning of this whole year, it's kind of been a crazy year, has very much been a challenge for me. It was so much to do with very little time to do it and a lot of demands. And then suddenly my mom passed in the spring, and that brought up a lot more to do and a lot of grief. And anyway, I suddenly realized through that whole process that my story is shifting. And the story the last few years for myself has been full of demands and to-dos and more to do than I can do, and pulls and people needing me, and it's been big, and I realize that's changing. So one of the stories that I get caught up in is overwhelm. The story of I don't have time, I don't have enough time, I have too much to do. Hey Jet, hi sweetie. There's not enough money, there's not enough of me, whatever that is. Stop now. I know you want attention. You want to help? Come on. Good boy. Good boy. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, the stories that limit us. So a friend of mine and a dear friend of mine, had been planning this trip, and I almost missed out. I almost said no to this camping trip we'd been planning on to celebrate our 60th year on the planet by going and seeing the Prairie Mountain wild horses and spending some good quality time together, which we don't often have time to do. And I almost said no. I told myself I didn't have time. I was in overwhelm. It's exhausting. That is not a fun place to be. And thankfully I was able to shift that story to I deserve a break. And I'm so glad that I did. We had a wonderful time connecting, and we got to see the wild horses. And I would have missed out on that. So when you really, really want something, what do? What step do you take towards it? If this could be something that keeps you awake at night, that really pulls you, is it something that you've said yes to already? Now, what steps do you take? What stories do you tell yourself if it gets hard or it gets overwhelming? Frank's about to knock my camera off the fence. Do you tell yourself, I can? Or do you tell yourself, it's going to be really hard? Do you tell yourself, oh, it's going to take so much time? Or do you tell yourself, I can prioritize this? What stories are you telling yourself? Our language is so powerful. Yeah. Jet's been with me since he was 3, and he is now 16, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, it's those stories we tell ourselves that are so powerful. The language that we use to talk with and about ourselves can empower us or disempower us, can lift us up or can limit us. When I was a little girl, I remember my grandmother, who I adored more than anything, get frustrated with herself, and she would call herself a jackass. And even as a tiny little girl, I didn't get that. I didn't understand why she would talk to herself like that or about herself like that. Yeah. So throughout my adulthood, I've learned a lot about what they now call neuro-linguistic programming, how we talk with ourselves, the power of our words and our thoughts on our lives, and how we feel about ourselves and our world. So I'm pretty aware now when I use dialogue inside, my inner dialogue that leads me astray and limits me, and I can shift it. And I really notice it in others as well. So one of my favorite books is called The Seer. It's by David Robinson. And it's really a business book, but it's really a fabulous book about the stories we tell ourselves and how to shift those stories. And he gave a quote by Henry David Thoreau, and it's, "Thought is the sculptor who can create the person you want to be." That's powerful. So he talks about how our language matters and encourages us to notice the stories we tell ourselves that empowers us and the stories that we tell ourselves that limit us. And to do that without judging ourselves. That's the other big thing. So what? We do make mistakes. We're human. And it's a learning process. I still catch myself. But to do it with this attitude or the perspective of not knowing and just observation and curiosity. So do that. Notice, especially as we come into the holidays with a lot of extra pressure. And we're around families. Around a lot of different people, and sometimes our old stories will pop up and we might tell ourselves stories that aren't true. Ask yourself, is it really true? Just notice. Awareness, right, is the first step in making a change. So I wrote a blog about this. It's on my website should you want to see the rest of it, and you'll see a picture of the wild horses that we saw, which was pretty darn cool. And to learn more about how we can help you at Horse Sense Healing shift those stories that limit you to stories that empower you. Stories that can help you live your grit with grace. Just check out my website, give us a call. We're also going to be doing my Catch Your Vision 2020 4-part workshop in January. I'm super excited about it. And it's a lot of that. It's what doesn't serve us anymore? What do we want to leave behind? How do we want to show up? And how do we want to be moving forward? And here's Raziel as well. Hi, buddy. Yeah. Anyway, have a fabulous Friday. And here's to living your stories of grit with grace. Thank you.